Cool, cool. Thank you so much again for giving us this opportunity. Hi again, everyone. My name is Sam Dalcine. I'm the talent manager at Endeavor College Prep. We're a TK through 8 charter school in the Boyle Heights area, so not too far from the area where USC is in, and decided to do a presentation with Oscar, who I used to work with at Alliance. Oscar, I give you an opportunity to introduce yourself, and we have uh, brief slides just giving overviews of our organizations, and then at the end we'll have some Q&A.
Awesome, Sam. Thanks. And so I'll let Sam go first, but introducing myself. My name is Oscar Barajas. I am a staffing manager at Alliance, as Sam shared. Again, really excited to be here. Thanks, Sam, for asking me to help and join in with this as well. I'm really excited to kind of share a little bit more about Alliance. We are different from Endeavor. We're actually a middle school to high school, so we are 6 through 12. And we have about 25 schools. So Sam shared, I'll cover it during my slides, but again, really excited to be here and get to know you guys a little bit better and answer any questions you may have.
Definitely. And I'm excited I miss working with Oscar. We used to be on the recruitment team together at Alliance. So this is an opportunity for me to work with him again. So this should be looking forward to it. So I'll share my screen and I'll get started on my presentation. So again, as I mentioned, I am from Endeavor College Prep. We are in the Boyle Heights neighborhood of LA. And for my presentation, I'm just going to share a quick overview of Endeavor, what you can expect from us. And as you have questions, feel free to note them somewhere or enter them in the chat box. I'm more than happy to answer at the end. So first, as far as our history, we started off as two different schools, actually. So there was Endeavor College Prep, and there was Fertoro College Preparatory Academy. And so this is our 11th year as a school, with all these years combined. And at a certain period of time, we became Endeavor College Prep, TK through 8. Previously, the schools were split across different campuses, but then they came underneath one school. And so our mission is to prepare our students with the academic skills, character traits, and intellectual disciplines to excel as leaders in high school, college, and their community. And we really believe in educating the whole child. We know that, academics are important. It's important for students to get good grades, but we also believe, character traits are important too, so they can be their best in high school and beyond. And we know that high school is the next step after us, but we do focus heavily on college. When you walk around our school, you'll see a lot of signage for college, and we have a lot of activities centered around that from K all the way through 8. So it's something that we definitely emphasize. And just a bit more about Boyle Heights, if you're not familiar, at the time when Endeavor started in Boyle Heights, the district schools weren't doing so well, and there were not charter or middle school options available for families. And so at the time, the founders of Endeavor thought it could be a good opportunity to have a school in the area that could be another option for families, and also a bit about the demographic of the area as well. And as you can see, our student population is pretty central. Our school is around this area, but as you can see, it's a pretty concentrated area where our students come from. And so, the majority of students, their parents take them to school or they take public transportation or walk. But as you can see, our students, for the most part, live pretty close to where the school is located. Just a bit more about our students. We have a little over 650 students in the building. We're all in one building. On the first floor is the elementary, second floor is the middle school, and over 90% of our students are eligible for free or reduced price lunch. And the majority of our students are of Hispanic or Latino descent, and about 36% are English language learners, and about 12% receive special education support. And early on, we had a lot of success. There were a lot of good things happening at Endeavor, and things that we're very proud of. And the point where we are now, we're trying to get back to those days. There have been some challenges over the years. This is my second year on the team, but there have been some challenges, just in full transparency, over the years. But this kind of serves as a reminder of what we can be, what we can strive towards, and where we've been in the past. So we're certainly looking for the right team members to help us get back to that point and help our students achieve where they should be. And you're probably also wondering what makes our school different. So in the next couple of slides, we'll talk about a couple of things that make us different. So we'll focus on data-driven instruction, our co-teaching model, our culture for students, and also for adults. So the first thing is data. So we are heavily focused on data. It helps our students, it helps our teachers to improve and refine things throughout the year. So there are, of course, different assessments that take place throughout the year. Every teacher has a coach who helps them overall, but also to analyze data and just figure out what things they can tweak on a day-to-day basis, what things they can change. We know that these things will impact our students as they go on to high school. So it's definitely a big focus for us. And also co-teaching. So at the K through 6 level, we have a co-teaching model. And so it's pretty cool. I think it's great because teachers have another support, someone who can help them out in the classroom. Typically they split up the subjects, they split up the planning. So it makes for an easier setting, in my opinion. And a lot of the teachers have mentioned that. And it allows for flexibility. So there can be different groups happening. As you can see in this class here, this is something that's very common that you'll see at the elementary school level. So it's something that was implemented a couple years ago, but of course is continuing to be tweaked and modified to best serve our students. And also our school culture. I'd say we have a very positive staff culture. Of course, it's different now, given that we're all working remotely. But I also lead our culture committee. So we do different outings and happy hours throughout the school year, different birthday celebrations, appreciations. Again, looks very different now, but when we're at school, we do our best to foster that sense of collaboration. And then you're probably also wondering, well, if I come to Endeavor, what's in it for me? What can I grow towards? What are the possibilities in the future? And here are a couple of them. So the way our school is, it's split up into academies. So you have K through 2, you have 3 through 5, and you have 6 through 8. Each academy typically has a leader who is, I guess you could say, the representative to the leadership. If leadership wants to run something by teachers, they typically meet with the academy leaders, and they take a leadership role within their grade span, and they're kind of the voice of that grade span. We also have instructional coaches. I think 2 of our instructional coaches were teachers previously at our school. So it's something we like to see. We like to promote internally, ideally. There are times when teachers lead different aspects of professional development. So I think it's a cool opportunity. There are many different other things you can do, but these are some things that candidates tend to ask about a lot. And then lastly, for our openings, we are actively hiring. We have 2 math teacher openings. We have a social science teacher opening, an English language development opening, and a middle school science teacher opening. So that's the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, we can definitely be sure to address those. Actually, one more, probably the most important thing, salary. So the majority of you are probably entry-level teachers. And so as a teacher, you fall into one of 3 buckets. So either you have an intern credential or a permit, your preliminary credential or your preliminary credential and master's. And so these are where you would start depending on what you have if you're hired. And we can definitely talk more about that at the end. And then our hiring process is pretty straightforward. Your application would go in, assuming it was good. We'd have a phone interview and then a demo lesson and interview over Zoom with our team, your reference checks, and then your offer. And I'm confirming that's the end of my part. So I'll pass it to Oscar and look forward to answering any questions you may have later on.
Awesome. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Again, Oscar Barajas. I work at Alliance College Ready Public Schools. So I'm going to share my screen as well. Let me make sure I have everything right over here. Really quickly, I just need to make sure I have the right passcode. Pull it real quickly. We'll just skip the video portion of it, but I can talk through some of those points. So let me go at this again. Awesome. Everyone can see everything? Perfect. I work at Alliance College Ready Public Schools. We are a 6th through 12th grade network. So our middle schools are 6th through 8th grade, and then our high schools are the average 9th through 12th grade. Also, our schools, and I'll show you a map in a little bit, we're located throughout all of Los Angeles. As a charter network, we're a little bit larger than Endeavor, as Sam would also share. But we have a total of 25 schools. We are all located primarily centrally in Los Angeles. We do have 2 outlier schools, one down in San Pedro, and the other one up in Sun Valley. But what we'll talk about is, so I have a video here. Let's see if it works. If the audio doesn't work, we'll switch off. And really quickly, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear the audio? If you can't hear the audio, we'll rotate out. Okay, looks like audio's not working. Videos in there. Definitely feel free to take a look at them on your free time. And then I'll try to cover as much some of the points from those videos during my presentation. But thank you so much for your patience on that. Definitely something we were not expecting. But some things that I want to make sure that I kind of highlight from those videos is kind of like our mission. As I was sharing, we're a small network. We're very heavily concentrated in Los Angeles. The communities we serve are historically underperforming. We really highlight how much our students grow within our network. We have 5 core values. We have really high expectations for all of our scholars. So we really value teachers that come in with the same high expectations that we have for the scholars that we serve. We have a really big focus on small personalized learning environments. So, you know, a more manageable class size is something that's really big. Something I will share is that it'll look a little different from school site to school site. And one of the main reasons around that is like enrollment sizes for our schools. It looks really different given that we're such a large network and we're really heavily spread out. In South LA, enrollment's gonna look a little bit different than like in Eastern LA due to gentrification. So classroom size looks a lot more manageable for one of our schools in South LA. You know, compared to like a school site in Northeast Los Angeles. Just trying to like be as transparent as possible around it, just because a school site in Los Angeles, Eastern Los Angeles might have a lot smaller, around like 20 students per class, where like one of our schools down in South LA might have like a 25 students per class size. So it'll look a little different. We have increased instructional time. Our school year is a little longer. And sorry, I kind of just jumped the gun on that one. Let me go back really quickly. Highly qualified educators. And the last point that I really wanted to come back to is like parents as partners. We really value the partnerships that we have with parents. Parents are a really valuable resource for us. When the student is not at school, they're at home. So we really have this really big focus on ensuring that we partner with all of our parents in their student education, in their child's education. This will look different again from school site to school site, but one really valuable resource that our schools have is like a really close relationship with parents. Administration has a really close relationship with parents. Teachers have that close relationship. And we also have a parent engagement specialist at our school site that kind of helps build the bridge for those relationships and make sure parents are informed. So we really, really value the input of the parents of our scholars. Again, here's the map of like where our scores are located. You'll see those two dots right here, San Fernando and San Pedro. Those are our two outlier schools. Look a lot different compared to where like we're centrally located, which is right here in the Los Angeles area and the Northeast LA area. We have 10 middle schools, 18 high schools. We serve about 13,000 scholars. We have 14,000 alumni, and we employ about 600 teachers since we're so large. Some accomplishments and recognitions. All 15 of our high schools are eligible for US News and World's best high school rankings. 14 of our middle and high schools are in the USC Innovate top LA public schools for underserved students. 7 of our schools have been California Distinguished Schools. We really take pride in the fact that 95% of our scholars, of our alums, are accepted into college. And 2 of our schools are National Blue Ribbon schools. Again, this would be the second video. The role that we play in our communities, again, we have a really big focus on bringing educational equity to the communities that we serve. We want all of our kids to be college ready, hence why Alliance College Ready. College Ready is a part of our name. We tackle this through various channels. The big channel is, of course, our college success team, and through various other initiatives that I'm happy to kind of talk a little bit more about that during the question portion. And we are really big advocates for our scholars. And also, like, if you look at our website, if you look at our social media, our parents are really big advocates for their scholars. So you'll see a lot of photos of our parents at board meetings, at community events, making sure that they're there, voicing their opinion. And some benefits of being an Alliance educator. Again, we employ about 600 teachers. To start off the year, all new teachers that are new to the network, there is a 5-day new teacher orientation. And this year's gonna look a little different with the health crisis. It'll actually be a virtual event. So we're currently in the process of working out a virtual support for that orientation, but we still plan it on being a 5-day orientation. Additional, like, to kind of couple that, like, when it's not in a virtual setting, everyone's at a school site, learning together. You're with the cohort of new English teachers. You're learning. You need our English support team. So it's a really, normally it is a very, very in-depth orientation. And we're hoping it has the same effect this year through a virtual setting. We also have an induction program. We partner with Green Dot. So if you have your preliminary credential and you want to clear it, we do have a program that kind of supports you through that. And then some additional benefits, we have strong instructional supports at the school site and from a home office perspective. At the school site, similar to Endeavor's, that we'll have like a director's instruction. We'll have an assistant principal that offers direct instructional support. At the home office level, we have an ELA team, we have a math team, we have a humanities team that actually now partners with the ELA team. And from there, you have a direct manager who kind of comes and can help you at the school site, kind of like whether it be classroom management, whether it be lesson planning. We do have someone from the home office that's there to support the school site. At the school site, there's also quarterly PDs held at our home office, so teachers are able to come to these PDs and kind of learn again with their peers. We offer competitive compensation, and there's also opportunities for teacher voices in schools and network decisions. So our CEO is actually very involved in making sure that he hears the voices of employees. So he often has focus groups. People are also able to talk with their school leader and kind of talk through any questions they may have or issues that they may be rising at the school site. They have a direct access to the instructional superintendent. So there's always a way to voice an opinion and make sure that the voices of our teachers are being taken into account. So I'll stop there, and then we can and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about Alliance during the Q&A portion with Sam.
Thank you very much, Oscar and Sam.
You're welcome. So does anybody have any questions for us that you may have been considering during the presentations. You can say it verbally or you can submit in the chat box, whichever you're most comfortable with.
There was a question in the chat, I think.
So from Melanie, if you haven't earned your credential but would like to, can you still apply? Yeah, you can still apply. I think it depends on, well, I know for us, it depends. It depends on the role you're applying for. And then we have to kind of take it from there. We're a bit smaller, so we don't always, so our capacity to process permits and things of that nature is it's a bit tougher for us, just because we have a fairly small team. It might be different at Alliance, so I'll allow Oscar to answer from their perspective.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. Yeah, I'll kind of echo like what Sam said. It depends on the subject and what it's for. But yeah, definitely like always feel free to submit an application. We can kind of look at all the information to make sure that all the right pieces are in play. You know, I think Sam will also echo this, is like the C2C and credentialing is never an easy piece. It's always so tricky. So we would want to make sure that we try to get as much information as possible. You know, sometimes we have to look at transcripts. So I definitely always recommend applying for a role so that we can review your information and see exactly like where you fall in the process and like what supports would be needed. We do have a credentials manager at Alliance that would be able to kind of help and like review that information and ensure that like the right pathway is set or the right channel is set up to ensure that you have a permit in time.
Okay, thank you.
I'll ask a question. Since I'm advising the students for application process, can you please talk a little bit about the application documents that you're looking for, like resumes, cover letters, and what would you consider a good resume and a good cover letter?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our online application is fairly simple. You know, we ask basic application questions, references, things of that nature. We have opportunity for you to submit your resume, submit your cover letter. I would say for the cover letter, you know, Oscar and I, we both look at a lot of resumes all the time and cover letters. And a big mistake people make is just sending a generic cover letter. Sometimes it has like a past date or another school. Sometimes it's very generic. So I would say, you know, when we review resumes, it's pretty quick. You can't spend 10 minutes reviewing someone's stuff. So you definitely want to make sure, at least for the cover letter, you highlight the school, specific reasons. You think it's you think it'd be a good fit for you. So I'll say for the cover letter, make it specific to the school. Take your time. It doesn't have to be 5 pages. It can be a paragraph or two, some bullet points. It doesn't have to be too in depth. For your resume, I would just say focus on your accomplishments. You know, again, we see many resumes, so we're looking for things that stand out. So, you know, in your student teaching, you may not think you made an impact, but you definitely did. So just think about how your students improve, those you work with, and things of that nature. So that's what I would say for the resume. And I would say also make sure the jobs are in the proper tense. So sometimes people have a current job or placement or something of that nature, and it's listed in the incorrect tense. And that's a very easy way for your application to just get skipped over because, you know, we have to present this information to hiring managers. So, you know, if someone's resume has the is in a wrong tense or had a lot of grammatical errors, it makes it harder for us to advocate for someone as a candidate. So take your time, have people review it, make sure things are to the best quality you can make it before submitting.
Thank you. And by tense, you mean like if they are currently working, it's not in the past tense.
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
Is that what you mean? And then the previous positions are in past tense so that you can defer.
Right.
Correct? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Oscar, and can I hear a little bit about what you're looking into when you're reviewing the documents?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, happy to share. I'll echo a lot of Sam's points. For our application, I think it's a little different than the one at Endeavor. It definitely looks a little, it can look a little intimidating when you look at it on our careers page. What I would say around that is like definitely just be as accurate as possible with the information you include in the in our application. One of the things that really stands out for us, there's a piece that's like credentialing. So like answering that information as transparently as possible. So like if like we ask if you have an EL authorization. If you don't have an EL authorization, please just say you don't have an EL authorization. There's nothing that kind of halts the hiring process a lot more than like someone saying they do have an EL authorization, and then we interview them, and then they don't have an EL authorization. We have to kind of start this new process with them. So just answering all the information, all the questions as transparently as possible. If you have a screenshot of your credentialing, definitely include that in there because we have the option to upload the imaging in there. That really helps us out a lot. On the cover letter, again, like I think things that usually that we don't look at or things that kind of like catch our eye and like usually move us away from a candidate, it's like just inaccurate information or like a past date or like a different school network being addressed in the cover letter. On the things that stand out to us right away on like a resume, definitely experience with like scholars or also just like highlighting your accomplishments, especially if you have data. Something I forgot to kind of mention about my job title as a manager at Alliance is that I work at essentially I work at the home office reviewing resumes and making sure that we get people out. But I support a portfolio school, so I work with 10 different principals in introducing candidates to them. So being in those rooms with them or being on those calls with them, they usually share like what information stands out to them. So like again, to share like if someone has on their information that they've worked with students, especially students in underserved communities, that stands out to them right away. Other things that they've always shared with me that they really want to look for is just again like those data points of like where have they worked, what have they done, and I think that really stands out to them. At least like even if you don't have any experience with results, at least being able to show that you've worked with our communities, it really goes a long way with some of the principals at Alliance.
Thanks, Oscar. I have another question. So I know that you have a place that they have to upload their credentials. What if the credential is in process or they haven't cleared it yet, but it's in a future date? Do they have a place to put that?
That's a really good question. Yeah, so that will be an option there. Normally what I always tell the candidates is that there's a box that's kind of like a text box that you can kind of input like more clarity on like what's happening with the credential. And that usually is enough to tell us like this person's like going to graduate in May 2020. That means they'll have their preliminary and we'll be able to kind of like move forward with that because normally right there we'll know that like certain things need to be met, like they need to get their degrees and that information can go there. Let me read this question real quick. But yeah, you would be able to kind of say what credential you're going to obtain and what requirements are missing. So we also know on our end that like that there's a timeline there, especially with like at TPA if that still needs to go through. So we'll be able to kind of like know exactly what that process looks like.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then I got this really good question here. Salary breakdown, yes. So I'll drop it in the chat right now. But we have a salary schedule similar to Endeavor for our teachers. The entering salary for a new teacher, intern, preliminary, clear, if this is their first year teaching with a credential, our starting salary is $55,470, and then it gradually goes from there. What I can add on to that is that the salary schedule I'm about to share with you is not the set salary schedule for all of Alliance. After the first year, we move to performance-based pay. So we have pay that is based off of the performance in the classroom. So teachers will then be placed on salary levels that are like highly effective, and that will kind of fluctuate the pay rate itself. So on the second year, if someone places like at a master teacher level, they have the potential to jump up 20K. So that's normally what it looks like for us. Let me just grab that really quickly for you so I can drop it in there. That's a really good question. But yeah, our salary pay is 55,470, and perfect. Let me drop the information in the chat. Please let me know if that doesn't work, and I'll try to figure out a way to put it on there.
I think there's another question in the chat box.
Oh yes. Some of us are graduating in December. I wonder if you would have openings for the spring semester. That's a great question. You know, sometimes transitions take place during the year. It's hard to tell now, but the best advice I would give to you is just to keep up to date on our job openings, our job websites. You know, for both of our organizations, we have a job page on our website, so you don't have to go to EdGen. You can go directly to our website to see our openings. So obviously just to check those out every now and then, and you know, when you're ready to get into the workforce, I would just check it out and see what we have available.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, it's similar. We usually always have like a transition, at least in the winter or in the spring. What I would also echo is like December graduations are a really good transition point for like either a spring position or a summer position or like a early fall position, just because in spring is when hiring launches for us, and I'm sure it launches for Dev as well. Like, so we're already looking at candidates. It's a good time to submit an application, because whether or not be the spring, we can have you in a pool for the summer or for the upcoming fall.
Yeah, sure. Brenda?
Hi, I didn't want to interrupt. I'm actually graduating in May,
Cool.
so I'm looking to apply multiple subjects. However, I will not be receiving my credential as of right now, just because I have to wait for the variable term waiver, and we can't submit that until June. I still need my RIGA exam. And I also was not able to complete a few things for the math portion of the ETPA, but I am interested in applying. I do have a question for both schools, or for both of you. It's about the school-wide practices. So is there a positive behavior practices or social emotional learning? So
Wait, I feel like you have more of the question.
I saw you.
I was just nodding my head, like listening, sorry.
Oh no, I just thought you were ready to talk. So so what I mean is, for example, is there some sort of like positive behavior interventions that are given to students if they are meeting their goals, behaving well, or also if they do need social emotional help? Is there like a school counselor or someone to help them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So PBIS was rolled out, I believe, I want to say last school year at our school. So there's a big push for that, and this year there was a heavy focus on the social emotional piece, just after feedback from the staff. And we have a lose my train of thought. Oh yes, we have a school counselor, and we have service providers that come in, so like, you know, psychologists, and there are some scholars who need more intensive therapy, and you know, there are things happening, right? So we have a lot of people in the building, in and out, who are helping certain kids with different challenges, emotionally and socially. So I think it's good. We have a lot of support for whatever the needs of the students are. Some, of course, more extreme than others. Our counselor does a great job, and our director of our dean of students, our director of SPED, they all do a great job just making sure we have you know, all the right people in the building to support families and to support kids in that aspect.
Yeah, and then on the Alliance side, my answer is going to be a little bit more general, just because Sam works directly at a school site, whereas I support a variety of school sites. But something I can kind of share about our network is this last year was our first year, like, where we made the priority, like we have a priority that is all means all. So we serve all of our scholars, scholars with disabilities, scholars with social emotional issues. So we have a really big focus on that now. we've had a big focus on it for a while, but this is actually the first year where like it became like an actual initiative for the entire network. We have, so within the home office, we have a director of psychology, a school psychology, who supports school psychologists at campuses. Each campus, it'll look a little different, which is why this is where it becomes a general answer for me. Some of our school sites do employ a school psychologist on campus that is able to assist students directly. Some school sites contract that out to like direct ed. However, there is a very strong focus from our director to kind of provide those supports and like advise. Schools also have social workers. Some schools will have a social worker. Other schools won't. They'll just have like counselors. So it'll look a little different. But with all that being said, we do have those three options of like schools having those three options to support their scholars, whether it be a school psychologist, a social worker, or a counselor on campus. There's another additional resource there is that we also, for scholars that have a very unique social emotional issues, we also have behavior intervention implementation aids. So they'll have an aide that is working side by side with them to ensure that they have that additional support there from another adult. And we also have our Department of Special Education as well. So school sites, we have a director of SPED for the network that kind of like helps and supports scholars and leads these work. And we have school support SPED managers that support school sites directly. So we kind of tackle it through various different channels, but it'll look a little different in terms of the initiatives and the work that's being done from school site to school site.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I see another question in the box. Samuel, what do you perceive as the main challenges that have hindered the success of Endeavor? That's a great question. So I think it could potentially be attributed to a couple of things. So this is my second year on the team. And from what I understand, previously all the schools were split across multiple campuses. And in the building we are in now, this is our third year in the building. So I think part of it is probably just, you have a school that's structured in a way where each campus kind of has a principal, if you will, or a director, if you will. And then all of a sudden, everyone came underneath one umbrella where there's one leader. So I think part of it is just like a systems thing and just figuring out what the culture is, just figuring out the flow of communication and support and things. I think it takes time to figure out. So I would say that's probably one of the things that attribute to some of the challenges, but I think it's good now because, kind of have the school kind of has its feet under them, if you will. Also leadership transitions. In years past, there were some leadership transitions. And prior to me coming, there was a lot of staff turnover as well. But this past year, not this current school year, but the previous school year, there's a big push for retention and culture and things of that nature. And so we retained over 70% of the staff from last year to this year. So I think things are heading in the right direction. We're kind of have more of an identity. I think that's another thing too, because, you more or less have three mini campuses doing their own thing. It takes time to just align and get on the same page with everyone. And, things take time. So, I think we definitely have a great opportunity to get back to where we were in the early years. And yeah, we're kind of just focused on finding the right team and the right people to help us get towards that vision.
Yes, Samuel.
You're welcome.
I have another question. Is there a particular order that we're going, or can I jump in and ask a question? Okay. So are there any intervention programs for students who are struggling academically?
I can go first on that one. Yeah, so that's a really good question. This year has been the first year again, like where I've seen it actually like being heavily tackled on. A lot of our school sites are beginning to introduce intervention roles. So it'll be like a math intervention or an ELA intervention, reading intervention been more common. So they'll have like an ELA teacher. However, this teacher's main focus will be reading. A lot of our middle schools have now fully have adopted Wilson. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Wilson, but it's basically a reading intervention program that teaches scholars how to read basically through phonetically. So that's been a really big introduction to us. This has been the first, again, this is now year 2, I think, of it actually being completely rolled out. And I think this year it actually started rolling out to high schools. So that's one way in which scholars are being supported. This year, as I've met with leaders about their budgets and what roles they want to introduce to their schools next year, math intervention has been a really big one. Math intervention program in which scholars who are a little bit more behind with math, especially the foundational intro math, get caught up through that program or get caught up through that class and that teacher. So that's one way.
That's a great question. So one of our instructional coaches, one of her focuses is response to intervention. So she kind of takes the lead on that. And that was a fairly new responsibility for her and for someone in particular at the school. So she kind of works with the teachers and certain students and just figuring out, how to reach those who are in need of more support than the majority of the class. And there's also small groups. And I think it's a benefit of the teaching model that we have in certain grades. So there's an opportunity for more deliberate work one-on-one, and there's also some tutoring as well. There's tutoring. I can't remember the days. We've been out of school so long, but there a couple of days a week, teachers have an opportunity to switch off and do tutoring. So we definitely just do our best to make sure we can support students as much as possible.
Thank you.
Another question. Some schools only sponsor new teachers at new teachers induction program in the second year. When will the schools start to offer that? Yeah, for us, it's typically in the second year. We partner with, slipped my mind, I believe Camino Nuevo on the induction program. It's paid for by us. Typically, the second year, teachers are able to get into our induction program.
And for us, similar, usually the second year. For us, we partner with Green Dot on a few things. We might transition off of that soon to working directly with Claremont Graduate University, but there's nothing super formal about that yet. If we do a transition, we would make sure that we have everything in place to support our teachers in that transition to a new induction program. For clarity on that last question, Rebecca, is it in terms of applying for college or once they're in college?
Like applying for college.
I think this question will mainly apply to me, right, Sam? I don't think you have high school. Yeah, so on our end, yeah, it's a really good question. So I'll take it from two angles. At the school site, each school site has counselors on campus that are able to support scholars directly. Again, we really pride ourselves on like smaller classrooms and smaller schools. So all of our counselors take a really good pride in trying to get to know the students, but not just the students, but also the parents. Given that a lot of our scholars are first generation, they make sure that parents are as involved and informed about college as much as possible. So we offer financial aid support, like in terms of like applying for financial aid and not just college. An additional support is that these counselors are supported in the home office by our college success team. So we have a team that primarily in the home office that kind of helps counselors through various different programs. So some of these programs, one very common one is Gear Up. So we have Gear Up that is funded through a grant that basically starts introducing college in the lives of scholars, basically from middle school all the way to high school. And actually through the first 2 years of college. So that's an additional way. So it actually takes them through like knowing college, applying for college, getting into college, and also supporting them while they're in college for 2 years. So that's an additional support that is offered through the home office.
Definitely. And we're, of course, TK through 8, but we have a college fair every year that we encourage all the students to come to from K all the way through 8. For us, we want it to be more than like a placard that they see around the school. We want them to know that it's something that's possible for them if they choose that option in the future, and that it's a realistic option. And so we have different speakers and different events We have career days, as I mentioned, college fair. So, we want, by the time, so you can imagine a student being with us in kindergarten, going through 8th grade, but every year they're exposed to college and majors and all these things that we probably didn't know about as kids. So we know high school is the next step, but we want them to go into high school knowing, okay, I've seen college for all these years. I know it's possible for me if I choose to go in that direction. So we do our best, even though we know we're handing them off to Alliance, for example. Any other questions, everyone?
I actually had a question.
Hey, Paul.
I just rushed back here from taking my CTEL exam, and that would be
Hi,
for
Paul.
applying, how's it going? Applying for an ELD position. And I'm just wondering, when I apply, can I put pending my ELD certification? That'll be pretty obvious when I apply.
Yeah, definitely. If you want to clarify that, that would help a lot. 'Cause I was mentioning before that, when reviewing resumes, there are so many, we don't spend that much time looking at them. So if you can point out something like that, that would be awesome.
Okay.
And let us know it would just let us know, paint a picture of where things are with you. So it would certainly be appreciated. And I'll let Oscar answer as well.
Just to clarify, that is required for ELD teaching.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great.
Yes. But if it's pending, that's a good thing too.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any additional questions?
I have one more. What is your school's special education model?
So from the Alliance end, so our schools are primarily mild moderate. One thing is one of our schools is moderate severe. The school up in Sun Valley actually does have a moderate severe program. They're our only school and the first school with us that actually launched that. And the complex is Marine and Innovation and Technology 612 complex up in Sun Valley. The principal there is Jonathan Tianco, and he's done a really good job of kind of rolling out supports for his scholars. So that's the only program that is mod severe. That's schools that have other schools in the network that have kind of like that would love to do mod severe program are going to heavily model it after the MIT program. We actually do take a really big pride in the way that program's developed and how they want to continue to develop that program. So we're really excited about it. Just really excited to actually have a very strong functioning mod severe program, given that it's our first. Other than that, again, mild moderate. Support at schools will look a little bit different. Some school types might have a special education coordinator. That's the recommendation for a lot of our schools, like always have a special education coordinator. Sometimes, again, budget, it'll look a little different, so they might not have a special education coordinator, but they will have special education teachers. In this case, sometimes it'll be 2 or 3. But normally it's special education coordinator, special education teachers, and sometimes special education instructional aides support with certain things. And at the home office, we have a director of special education who kind of oversees the entire vision for special education within the network. And we have special education managers that work and support school sites, like similar to my specific role. They support a portfolio schools and make sure that they support the special education coordinator to support special education teachers at campuses.
And at Endeavor, we have a director of special education as well. So she leads the charge on all things SPED, and we have special education teachers as well. We have a wide range of special education needs at our school, but it's open to every student. So we've had students with fairly severe autism and things of that nature, but and in some cases, as I mentioned before, we might need external support. additional agencies and service providers to help and assist us throughout the day. But for the most part, everyone is in the same class, but there are, resource teachers that push into the classroom, pull out, do small groups and things of that nature. So it kind of just depends on the needs of the student. But it's something we take very seriously, just communicating with families, doing everything the right way legally, which is big part of why we wanted someone on campus solely focused on special education and making sure we're serving students properly. That's, I guess, that's an overview of what special education is like at Endeavor.
Thank you.
I have two questions. I know they're different schools, but I want to know, what is the student or the scholar retention rate from one grade to the next within the school or the school system? And the second question is, do the schools have an after-school support program that helps or supports with student or scholars academics? And is that reflected in a single plan for each school? Or do you have a single plan since your charters?
Oh, that's a good question. As far as scholar retention, I'll be honest, I'm not sure. Like, there's somebody on my team who's focused on like student recruitment. He's actually sending out intent to return letters to all the families, or surveys rather, to all the families. So as far as numbers, I'm not sure. I do know there's a big push and an effort to retain families. But throughout the year, things happen. Students may drop for relocation, for different reasons, right? I mean, things happen. And there are times when the family just has to move to another school for different reasons. Then we do have an after-school program. It's called, I forget the name. We've been out so long, I'm forgetting a lot of things. But we have an after-school program that we used to run internally, but for next year, we're going to work with an outside agency to work with our students. So what that looked like this year is, there'd be a group of students, whoever signed up for after school, they'd have homework time, they'd have enrichment time, they're able to work on different projects, there's some recess time, there's supper. So it's kind of pretty holistic, but it's good because they get an opportunity to work on their homework. And, the reality is sometimes parents need that extra help, right? There are parents who work late. And sometimes it's just best for the student to be at school and be able to, of course, get their homework done, but work on some cool projects of whatever sort, and hang out and have fun with their friends, and also get a meal. So that's what it looks like on our end.
Yeah, I'll start with that's a really good question around the retention of scholars. I don't have those numbers either. We do have an enrollment team that kind of like tracks and like probably has those numbers somewhere and tracks them. But it is very common for a lot of so some of our schools are complex sites. So it'll be a middle school and a high school there, but they're both separate entities. But it is very common that like someone from the middle school will switch over to the high school for the upcoming school year once they're done with 8th grade. So that's very common, especially like our Ochu Donovan complex. Really, really common that like if they go to O'Donovan, they're going to go to Ochi next. Our complex up in the valley, similar thing. If they go to the middle school, they're going to go up to the high school. So that's usually very common. But similar to, like as Sam shared, like in terms of scholars going to different schools, those numbers would be, I unfortunately don't have those numbers, so they'll look a little different, and it's usually for different reasons. In terms of after school programs, similar, we partner with an outside agency. Most of our school sites partner with an outside agency. I believe it's called All Stars. So similar, it's an opportunity for them to do homework, have something to do after work, just because parents aren't able to pick up their children right after work. Gives them dinner. So that's usually the one that I see most of our school sites partner with to provide support and additional services for our scholars.
That's really cool. Wow. You're welcome.
So everyone, I have a hard stop at 2. I have to transition to another meeting, but thank you so much. I'll share all my information with Sam again, so you guys know where our application is. Have any more questions, feel free to reach out to them. reach out to me. But I really appreciated getting to know you and answering your questions. Have a nice rest of your day, and hope you all continue to stay healthy.
Thank you very much, Oscar. And if you need contact information for Oscar, I can also provide that if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Have a good one.
Take care, Oscar. And thank you so much, everyone. It's great speaking to you all. If you have any further questions or interested in Endeavor, definitely let me know. Or you can reach out to Oscar if you're interested in Alliance as well. Ultimately, we want you to go forth with what works best for you, which is why we did this together, because we know we're two different schools. We're a single school site, whereas Alliance, you have 25 options. So we definitely just want you all to do what's best. So hope to hear from you all soon. And Nari, thank you so much for organizing this as well. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you very much for being here, and thank you, everyone. Have a great
Awesome.
day.
Take care, everybody.